This is the Piaggia Carmignano Riserva from 2016, which is new to the By the Glass selection after we've reopened. I've been pouring it by the glass for some time, just kind of as a hand sell, and it's been doing quite well. People really love it. But now that we've got a little bit of room on the By the Glass selection, I've just kind of, as you might have noticed, rearranged things a little bit, so there's a bit more space. This is now listed at, I think I want to say $32 a glass, $160 a bottle, which is pretty good value. The wine is outstanding. It is the Piaggia Carmignano Riserva 2016. I'll talk a little bit about Carmignano as a region first. Carmignano is a very small town in Tuscany. Okay, so we're looking at a Tuscan wine, and Tuscany is very famous for its Sangiovese. Sangiovese has been its dominant grape for multiple generations, hundreds of years. Sangiovese, basically the etymology of the term is, it means the blood of Jove, and Jove is Jupiter in the Roman pantheon, which would be Zeus in the Greek pantheon, essentially. So we're looking at the blood of Jupiter, okay? So I don't know, kind of cool, Sangiovese, blood of Jupiter. The idea being that a single drop of Jupiter's blood landed in the soil, and from that drop of blood and the soil sprouted the grape Sangiovese. Sangiovese is maybe more famous for the wines of Chianti Classico and for the wines of Brunello di Montalcino. We've served the Carpenetto Vino Nobile di Montepulciano by the glass, that is also based on Sangiovese, but very famous grape for Tuscany and produces some fantastic wines. Sangiovese is a pretty versatile grape, by the way, so if you kind of leave it alone, it gets quite vigorous and produces a lot of leaves and vines, and maybe not so much grapes, but if you're on top of it and you're trimming it and you're taking care of it in the vineyards, you can produce really some very good wines. If you kind of let it do its own thing and you don't tend it very well, then you're going to wind up with a wine that, quite frankly, isn't really that good, although you can probably sell it quite cheaply. So there's a range of price points with Sangiovese, everything from a $10 a bottle wine to something that you get into the hundreds upon, maybe even thousands of dollars a bottle for Sangiovese-based wines. Carmignano is a little bit different. It's not 100% Sangiovese. It is, I think, 70% Sangiovese in this case. Actually, it says right on the back of the bottle. I can just read it to you. Actually, I can't read it to you. It's in Italian. But it's 70% Sangiovese, 20% Cabernet, and 10% Merlot. Okay? So the Cabernet here is going to be Cabernet Sauvignon, for sure. Although Cabernet Franc might appear in certain situations as well. So basically, what does that sound like? It sounds like a super Tuscan wine. Okay, it sounds like a blend of Sangiovese and the Bordeaux varieties, which is classically what we would understand as a super Tuscan. The super Tuscans came into vogue in the sort of 60s and 70s and onwards in Italy, but this wine is not a super Tuscan. This wine has been using Cabernet and Merlot for hundreds of years. In fact, I believe it was in the 16th century, so 500 years ago, that they started using Cabernet and Merlot. So really, quite a long time ago. If the winemaker here heard you call his wine a super Tuscan, he would slap you. This wine is not a super Tuscan, although it does kind of drink like one because it's got the same components. But historically speaking, it is a unique style. So usually you're looking at 70 to 80% Sangiovese, and then the rest would be Cabernet and Merlot. And they often don't specify in Italy whether it's Cabernet Sauvignon or Cabernet Franc, in the same way that in northern Italy they don't always specify between Sauvignon Blanc or Sauvignon Gris or any of these other, they just call it Sauvignon, okay? And that's their Sauvignon Blanc. The Italians just call it Sauvignon, and they just call it, in this case, Cabernet, and whether it's Cabernet Franc or Cabernet Sauvignon is, quite frankly, your problem. And they're not going to help you figure that out necessarily, unless you go to the winery or ask them. So this wine has the classic notes of Sangiovese. So on the nose, definitely has a little bit of that like Italian dustiness that I've talked about before. A little bit of that kind of gravel road kind of thing. Also got some sort of red fruit and raspberry, and certainly some ripe red cherries. But also it's got a little bit of black fruit. So the black fruit is going to be the component that's contributed by the Cabernet Sauvignon, which gives a little bit more of kind of like a black currant or black plum kind of characteristic. That's what Cabernet is contributing here. And also you can tell, I think, on the nose that this wine has good fruit concentration. It does have a good fruitiness. There is a little bit of oak present as well. So it's got a little bit of that toastiness and a little bit of that vanilla, which people love. Yeah, I don't know. This is really quite I also want to say like bay leaves and sort of dried spices. Maybe a little bit of graphite and minerals as well. Let's taste it. Yeah, so the wine is structured, but the tannins are quite silky and supple. So very ripe tannins. Sometimes when tannins aren't fully ripe, they can become really harsh and astringent. And it's kind of like if you've ever bitten into a twig. I don't know. Like, it's not that I suggest you guys go and bite twigs in the springtime, but if you ever do, you're going to understand what green or astringent tannins are. This wine is not like that. The tannins, are sort of silky, they're smooth, they're really nicely integrated. There are lots of tannins, but it's not particularly intense. They're really nicely integrated into the wine. The wine also has a nice combination of red and black fruit, and again, you get that kind of dusty, kind of earthiness to it, a kind of rustic character. Kind of, I don't know, reminds me of like a barn filled with a bunch of rusted farm equipment, something like that. I don't know. So this wine is delicious. It's $32 a glass. It's a great sell. It's $160 a bottle. So I don't know. When I put a wine on by the glass and I say that it's $32, I feel like that's expensive. But people will buy a $160 bottle of wine, right? And this is a really good one. Sell it at $160 if people are looking for like a little bit more of a full-bodied style. I've even sold this to people who are looking for a Napa cab but aren't sure and want it to go well with food. And this is a really great option. Okay, so we got lots of it. Sell this stuff, and I've probably got 4 or 5 cases of it left. The fridge is full, so taste it next time you're in. We'll talk about it. It is delicious. It's from a historical region, a very historical region actually. Carmignano is one of the very first appellations to be officially certified by a government, essentially. So one of the first like official appellations, like. It was in 1716, essentially, that Cosimo de' Medici gave special recognition to the region of Carmignano, and simultaneously did it for Chianti, what was Chianti, what is now Chianti Classico, and the 2 other regions were, I think, Pamino and Valdarno da Sopra, which have fallen into obscurity a little bit, but Carmignano and Chianti Classico are still very much producing good quality stuff. Also, it's a beautiful bottle, right? Like, I gotta say, like, when I'm putting a bottle of wine on a table and I put this one there, it looks good. It looks good in the room. Like, some wines don't look that great. You put a bottle of Toccato, even with the new label, it looks okay, whatever, sure. But this is one sexy bottle. Like, that is, they put a lot of money into this bottle. All right.